Ready to go, Joe?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, I call this meeting to order. December 10th, 2025, Albany County Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting. Roll call. Mr. Warnick. Present. Henning. Here. The David. Yep. Hinckley. Here. I'm here. We're all here. Very good. May I have a motion for approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
I second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That motion
Was there any
carries.
discussion if there had been any? I'm assuming there wasn't any.
I was taking a look around. No one looked like they were
Okay.
ready to engage in discussion. May I have a motion for approval of the minutes for November 12th, 2025, our last meeting?
I move to approve the minutes.
Second.
Any further discussion on this? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. Anyone have any disclosure or conflicts of interest to disclose?
No.
I have no conflicts by way of just kind of disclosure. I have had some communications on the short-term rentals that we can talk about when we get to that point.
Okay.
A little bit of other information come in, so we can talk about that.
Yeah, very good. In that case, we will move on to public applications. And I believe Joe will be presenting the Bingham Zoning District Amendment ZDA -10-25. Joe.
Hello, the applicant is Brett Bingham. This is located on the Rand Track 2, which is up off of Two Rivers Road. The request is to change the zoning from ranchette, to ranchette from agricultural. There were some reviews. Conservation District commented on soil degradation, reclamation, and invasive species. Full comments can be seen in the review section. Game and Fish commented on wildlife friendly fencing in the Laramie River. Full comments can be seen in the review section. The applicable sections of the Albany County zoning resolution is Chapter 3, Section 5C. Findings necessary for approval. Pursuant to the Albany County zoning resolution, Chapter 3, Section 5C6, the Board of County Commissioners must make the following findings. That the applicant has provided a site plan as required by the Planning Department. That the zoning district amendment generally follows the suggestions of the Albany County comprehensive plan and other applicable land use plans of Albany County, and that the applicant has demonstrated that the adjudicative zoning district amendment meets the following impacts. And pursuant to Chapter 3, Section 5C3 of the Albany County zoning resolution, the applicant has provided the required notice by posted sign, publication, and certified mailing. This parcel is located within both Priority Growth Area 3 and Priority Growth Area 4. Staff analysis, the Planning Department believes that the proposed zoning district amendment generally follows suggestions of the Albany County Comprehensive Plan. As part of this property is located within PGA 3 and is near a concentration of existing residences, has an existing county road and existing utility lines, and Priority Growth Area 4 calls for low density residential uses. Findings of fact, the findings necessary for approval and applicant responses referenced in this report are adopted as findings reflecting that the applicant has met the specified impacts and the same are incorporated herein. Conclusions of law, the applicant is proceeding in accordance with and is in compliance with the requirements of the zoning resolution. And the staff recommendation is to approve the Bingham Zoning District Amendment ZDA 1025, adopting and incorporating the staff analysis, findings of fact, and conclusions of law as each are stated in the staff report.
Before we get started with questions, I have one general question. The map showing Priority Growth Area 3 in the back.
Yeah.
Is that area defined in the comprehensive plan?
Priority Growth Area 3.
Yeah, well, I mean, the actual physical area is shown on the map. I don't think I've ever seen it before.
I believe so, but
Well, there were some additions to the comprehensive
Yeah,
plan.
I thought we just sort of had a node or
that came later.
sort of a general area, and that shows a very, well-defined area.
that might be.
Yeah, so there is when it was originally adopted, it was a dot. Yeah, it was a note on the map. But after that, two different maps were put in there. I think it was like 3.11 and 3.12 that have better definement of that. So what Joe's using is what was defined in that subsequent amendment to the comprehensive plan.
Okay, great. So questions for staff, starting with Vern.
And just to quickly follow up on that, for those who might be following, the comp plan, there's the printed one, and then there's been a number of things that get added to it. So if you want to know what the comp plan says, I don't know what's the latest edition, but you got to go find it online, I guess. Is that how you?
Yeah, the one online is the current.
Is how you see what's actually going on.
That's good to know.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. I was trying to just match up my various versions of the regs, and I thought we were in chapter 3, section 5G rather than C. Am I confused, or have we got our references?
I don't have the regs right in front of me, but
We're looking for the place where it says these are the findings. And I thought I found it in G, just to get our references straight. Is that something we can, maybe I can just put that in as an editorial comment. Anybody have the regs there at their fingertips?
I'm
Looks like
pulling them
Laura's-
up.
It's 3-5, section 3.
Yeah, 3-5. I thought G is where I found the finding.
C is the
C, yeah.
adjudicative zoning district.
C is the adjudicating, which is what we're doing, zoning district amendment.
Okay, but if we want to talk about the findings, am I right? Those are in G? Where it says you have to do da 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 da.
It's under C6, it looks like.
I'm looking for the part where it says you have to.
There is no G.
Are you looking at an
I'm
older
looking at-
version?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, I am. Okay, I'm suffering from this thing.
Adjudicative versus, yeah, we've changed those.
Okay, so
C6 is where the findings are.
okay. And I was falling prey to my own concern there. Wrong version. Okay. Then as I'm going through the findings, yeah, there are 4 adjacent subdivisions. All of those are on the other side of the river, the other side of the railroad, the other side of the highway. That is what it looked like to me, the ones that the applicant has referenced by way of
I
compatibility.
believe one of them is,
There are homes on
they are touching, I believe,
I think all the little stuff.
I guess, just across the railroad tracks.
Yeah. And I think that shows
And
up.
then to the west, those are subdivisions, but they're bigger parcels.
Yeah. Okay, the subdivisions that are referenced here, are those all the ones off to the east.
Yeah, I think so.
Then the economic impacts, this is just a fine point, but there was a study done some years back that demonstrated that any of these rural subdivisions do not, as it's stated here, increase tax revenues for the county. They're a net loss. I don't know if that study has been updated or if you guys follow that at all, but at one point, so we ran those calculations and concluded that the increased tax revenue that's generated is less than the cost of providing services. Are you familiar with that study?
I am not, I will point out that
I mean,
is,
there have been studies by the university in the past, but I haven't seen anything in the last 10 years.
So it was,
I don't know.
It was an older study. I guess I'm asking if that had been updated. Your knowledge.
Not that I'm aware of. I haven't really looked for it either. So,
Okay.
But you know.
Well, I think it's a relevant background concept that if there has been a new one, we ought to bring that forward. Then I get to the statement about the priority growth areas, and I think it would be kind of fairer to the presentation to point out that this is in priority growth area 4. There's a tiny little sliver that's in the floodplain that's in PGA 3. So I think to be fair to the PGA map, it would be priority growth area 4. Sound reasonable to you?
I mean, consider it whatever you want, but part of the parcel is in prior growth area 3.
Well, I'm just thinking in the description of the part of our role is to help the board understand. And so if we can help you guys prepare a staff report that is more informative of the application, I think that would be useful. And my suggestion is that the staff report would be more useful if it were to point out that this is basically a priority growth area 4 area, despite the fact that there's the one side sliver in the floodplain that's in priority growth area 3, which you wouldn't be developing anyway. So I would just add that to as an editorial comment on the staff report, and I think it is significant. Right above that, rural residential is described as being 5 acres. That's changed. Again, maybe I'm caught up in updates and so forth.
Are you referring to underneath the comp plan?
Yeah, I'm in the staff report there at 3.6.
Right.
So
that's in the comp plan. That's directly from the comp plan.
Yeah, would it be useful, again, for the reader to point out that what we now call rural residential isn't that?
This rural residential from the comp plan covers ranchette, rural residential, and ag residential. So anything that deals with either of those 3, that will be the statement that's included in the staff report.
Well, all right, again, my coaching would be to be a little more helpful to those who may not know all those details. Because am I correct that what we call rural residential zoning now is 10 acres?
Yes.
Okay. And then just again, as a pointing it out, and you can respond or not as you think appropriate, when we're quoting from the priority growth 4, from the comp plan, and it encourages low density residential uses, I think it's relevant that we now have in our zoning portfolio 2 lower residential densities than ranchette. That is correct, isn't it?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. All right, I think those are the only questions I had. Mr. Chair, thank you.
Laura.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do have a couple questions. So Jake Schneider, the county engineer, did not review this.
No. It's a zoning change.
Okay,
He normally doesn't.
okay. I guess I was struck by the percentage of the property pointed out in the Laramie Rivers Conservation District letter that are prone to flooding. And I wondered what did you do to look at the, oh no, it's not opening on my iPad. The floodplain resolution seems to be all about the economic impacts from not only changing how water flow goes to avoid flooding or increasing the chance of flooding, but also it addresses land uses in places that are prone to flooding. And I know that the vast majority of the property is outside of the 100-year floodplain that nowadays you wonder how valid our 100-year floodplains are, but I know we don't have replacement maps. They are what's on the books. But there's a high percentage of the land that has soils that are determined to flood frequently. And that seems to me to be an economic concern that wasn't explored in the evaluation in the staff report that we have in front of us. And so I'm kind of wondering about that. What do you think about that, Joe?
I guess anything drainage wise will be taken care of at a subdivision stage. If they wanted to develop within a floodplain, they would have to do a floodplain development application through our office. So I guess I'm not sure that a zoning change, like a floodplain, has any effect on a zoning change.
I guess
at this stage.
Yeah, no, I see that the idea of addressing some of these issues at the subdivision phase is, often what what you guys are telling us about zoning changes when we bring up concerns. But I'm just concerned that the density being proposed for the amount of acreage that's prone to flooding maybe just sets up a conflict to begin with for trying to figure out the subdivision step and whether or not the ranchette sized lots would be more amenable to working with what's out there in a way that doesn't, sorry, rural residential. Here we go, getting our old terms mixed up. So rural residential, the larger lot size, seems like it would provide a safety factor for when you get to the subdivision phase, being able to lay out a subdivision that does not put future homeowners in a bad position, because I mean, the Laramie River Conservation District letter was pretty clear about the soil map indicating, what was it, something like 70% of the land would be considered not suitable for dwellings. And so it just seems like we're creating a future train wreck kind of by saying to just leave it all to the subdivision stage. But I know that is often where you guys say you can solve these kinds of problems.
Sure. So I guess I will start off with saying that this is what the applicant wanted to apply for. You can't just change it on the fly to whatever other zoning district. I will also say that by no means am I an expert on soils or anything like that, but I read the report that the 70.5% of the property that's, Bosler, Barolic, however you say that other word, basically that they don't know how it reacts. That's how I read it. I don't know if that's right. But so I guess I think that assuming that the 70% is going to flood, or it has higher potential to flood or something like that, I think we're reaching for something that I don't know that's what's being said.
Yeah, I mean, just like if you do, a search of the word flood in the PDF, it gets to some of these soil units and says, floods frequently. So it just, I mean, if the flood plain resolution is sort of saying, hey, the purpose of this whole resolution is to, oh, David's got his hand up. I should just stop here.
You're good.
Oh, just the findings of fact laid out in that resolution are all about protecting from economic harm. I guess ultimately I don't feel like what's in front of us is addressing that piece of the findings that we have to make for a zoning change. If the answer is just, well, we'll worry about it at the subdivision stage, I guess I'm kind of, it's a finding here at this stage of things. And I just didn't feel like it was addressed in any kind of way at all. Okay, David, sorry.
Right here.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, I mean, I'm just looking at the map. The majority of this property is not in a floodplain. Now, if it's the soils report that was done by them, if that's what you're going by, unfortunately, in our analysis, if this whole property was in the floodplain, we would definitely, really consider whether we want to recommend approval of something like this. But where most of it's not, And unfortunately, that's where it gets to like, when you get to the subdivision phase, then the wastewater systems will be looked at, and DEQ, a report will be done. They will have to review that report and determine whether wastewater systems can be put on the property. But with our process now, we don't have that information.
So
Um,
is that the point at which Jake Schneider would get involved to look at like suitability for placing a structure on the soils?
Yeah, and he would, if he wanted to, he could, require like no build zones and different locations and that kind of stuff. So I know you don't like it, but that'll be taken care of at the subdivision stage.
Okay, thanks. That's.
Chuck, can I follow up? Because my question is
Hold on a second,
related.
let's take more.
Oh, no, I'm
Yeah.
done.
All right.
Thank you. So in 2010, this whole area flooded. Do we have aerial photographs, maps of that flood? Because I drove that road in 2010 and I looked online, especially again, when I saw the application. And if my memory is correct, the whole place was flooded, not just the floodplain. So if we have any documentation of the 2010, and it wasn't a 100-year flood, it was a bad flood. Anybody remember June 2010? Yeah, the water was at the level of the old bridge over the Laramie River in town. If we have any documentation of the floods of this area, that would be useful for us to be able to say, hey, I understand the subdivision stage. I'm not questioning the subdivision stage. I'm just saying, I was surprised that the Laramie River District did not put any of these maps in the report, because
Sure.
I distinctly remember the whole place was flooded.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I wasn't here. I wasn't aware that that happened. Obviously, I would have loved to comment if they were concerned about that. But we didn't receive any, so I don't know.
June 2010. Had a big rainstorm and all the snow is melted. And the whole area was flooded.
Sure. No, I believe you. I just, I don't know.
They had to evacuate people, they had to rescue cattle. It was a bad flood. So I'm just asking for, not just for us, we are not gonna be personally affected by this, but for the people interested in, or the applicants, I should say.
Sure.
So you're not aware of any?
I didn't receive any comments. I wasn't aware of, that flood. And I don't know if we have any maps or anything.
Our office doesn't.
I don't know.
Like we could check with the emergency management, but I
Yeah.
don't know if that was part of the county at the time, so.
And these get sent to EMA, so I don't know. I'm surprised that
Yeah.
they've commented on previous floods before, so I don't know.
Because I went online and I tried to look for maps for the flood
Sure.
myself and I couldn't find any, so I thought maybe you guys have something, no?
We don't.
Okay, it's too bad.
Anything else?
No, that was mine.
Request is for rent check, right? Not rural residential.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so.
And,
Maybe
I mean, it is in fact,
Commissioner Maloney has a couple questions.
I'll let you.
Or I can go after.
Yeah.
I do have questions, but okay.
And, I mean, in fact, again, this is a mix of PGA 4 and 3. I mean, it's not PGA 4. That's it's sort of going after what Vern asked. I mean, I agree that it's a mix of PGA 4 and 3. I mean, that's what y'all looked at and concluded as well, right?
Yes.
Okay. Diana.
Okay, yeah, so it is PGA 3 and 4, but mostly 4.
Yeah.
And that says that it's in environmentally sensitive areas, wildlife habitat, and that low density residential uses are encouraged. And I'm concerned that Ranchette is not particularly low density. And also the game and fish comment about septic and well impacts on the river. I don't know how high the water table is out there, but if it's zoned ranchette, do they, can they by right put 28 houses out there? Or do those lots have to? Before you can put a septic tank in, you have to be able to get a DEQ approval? How does that work? I mean, does it become a thing by right that you can put those houses in, even if these other concerns aren't met at that point?
So I guess I'm not sure what you're asking, but I'll try and answer. So anything larger than a 3-lot subdivision would have to do all of the reports that go to DEQ. And at that time, if they feel that something needs to be put on the plat where, like, for example, the paddocks plat, they have, must use advanced septic and mounted systems are whatever. And so then if that's what happens, it has to be put on the plat. That's what is required of that subdivision forever. If they don't say anything, then they would have to come in and do the normal septic permit, just like any other application.
Okay, so the conservation district said that a whole lot of this is not suitable for houses with basements. If you can't have a basement, can you have a septic system? How deep are they? I don't know. And how high is the water table there? And if it's zoned ranchette, are they then entitled to put that density of houses out there, even if it turns out the water table's too high, the soils really are unsuitable? I mean, if all of that happens and they have this zoning, how does that get resolved?
I mean, I assume that they could put a no basements allowed stipulation on the plat. They could do mounted systems. I mean, there's different ways. David can maybe answer better.
Well, I was just gonna say during the preliminary reports they do for DEQ, they do have to do like deep pits, like 8 to 10 feet down. So at that time, they would determine where the water table is. I mean, if it's more than 10 feet, they wouldn't know. But if they go down 10 feet and the water table's up so far, the rule is for septic systems. I think you have to have at least 4 feet of basically dirt between there and groundwater or bedrock or whatever. And then after that, you can put your septic system. If there's 2 feet, you got 2 feet and then you hit the water table, then you'd have to do a mounted system, you'd put 2 feet more, and then you'd mound it over the.
Oh, I see. So you'd build a
leach field.
hill to
Mhm.
get the
Yeah.
elevation. Okay. I didn't
Yeah,
know that.
it's
Okay.
all doable through engineering, and they just have to meet those standards. So, yeah. So even if the soils are like super horrible, I mean, people can bring in new soil to do that. I mean, you can do what you need to do to meet the regulations. The regulations are written basically to give you options. So.
Anything else, Diana?
Well, I mean, then I just wonder if you bring in a whole lot of soil, then we're concerned about sediment going into the river, and it seems like a sensitive area, and this seems like a dense zoning. That's my concern. And it is mostly PGA 4. It is partly 3, but it's mostly 4.
Right. We don't agree with that, but it's not PHA 4, it is a mix.
It is a mix, but
That's
it's
what we say
skewed.
the
It's not an
second
even mix.
Yeah.
That's okay.
No.
As far as density questions, obviously nothing is set in stone at this point. Things can change, but you can ask the applicant what they're thinking.
Any further questions? Or do you have anything else? No, good. Okay, I assume the applicant is here. Yeah, well, please step forward. If you have anything you'd like to add at this point, go ahead. Otherwise, we'll have some questions for you.
All righty, sounds good. The only thing I'd add is I've grown up on Two Rivers Road. My personal house is just down the road, about 1,700 feet from the proposed property. I remember when the river flooded during that time. and the floodplain was completely covered there. But I do remember all the high ground that was outside of the floodplain did remain dry during that time. Any questions?
Okay, one more off, why don't you start?
Well, he answered my question.
All right, well, very good. Diana?
I don't think I have anything different than what I just said.
Maura?
Well, I guess I'm gonna ask you questions that are immaterial to our decision making.
Okay.
But,
Ask away.
have you been thinking down the road as to how you would lay out the lots on this property?
I have.
And
And I don't want to, I know you mentioned like super high density of 28 houses. I don't want to go that direction at all. I'm thinking more of 5 to 9 acre lots, and then strategically placing those to not just cram them in there, but to make something that's more visually appealing for residents, giving everyone a good portion to be able to have suitable ground to build houses on, so that no one's like sandwiched with a lot in the floodplain. That wouldn't be fair to anyone or work good for anyone in that situation. And so I'd be more in the range of like 10 to 15 dwellings is what I'm looking to do out there.
thanks for answering my immaterial question.
For sure. And that would also be dependent. I've talked with hydrogeologists like Ben Jordan on different situations out there. And I've also been in contact with different engineers to be able to see their recommendation for layouts that'll work better for accessing from the county road and so forth.
Thanks.
Again, a follow-up, and I would say it's irrelevant. I think it's context. Obviously, from the questions you've heard so far, there's concern about the density. So my question is, have you looked at some of the lower density zonings and found that those would not fit your goal? When you say 10 to 15 dwellings, for example, that would be accommodated within a lower density zoning.
Yeah, some of the front lots, I have neighbors just to the side of me. My lot itself is around 5 acres. And so I wanted to put some of those front lots around that 5 acre point. I thought they looked really nice with a house situated on them, and it gives residents the area they need. And then the back lots I'd like to make bigger. But with that, going down to 5 acres in front is what influenced my decision to go with ranch sheds.
And you're aware of the rural residential zoning allows 5 acre lots as long as the average is 10.
I looked at that. I
Didn't
figured ranch shed would be the best thing to pursue at the time.
Okay, fair. Thank you. That's all I had.
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, we will conduct a public hearing, I believe. So anyone in the public would like to make a comment on this application? Please step forward, state your name, where you're from.
My name is Bo Bingham. I also live on Two Rivers Road as well. I noticed a couple of the questions dealt with soil quality just a little bit, and Brett is my son there, but we just recently built his house this last year. And as you're talking about the different septic issues out there, we actually had the soil tested in order to put a septic tank in out there. Just, what did you say, 1,400 feet from the property is where his house is located. So we've been able to go through the regulations that way to make sure the soil is suitable for septic use at that time. And my house is close to there as well in regards to the flooding plain. And I love your question about because that was a great flood. It was pretty impressive. But the majority of the property was not affected during that, where the building, where Brett is proposing that would not be influenced by the flood. It was up to the river in the lower area, but the higher area did not receive any water at that time. And that's where both of our houses are located. So thank you.
Actually, would y'all let me ask one other question?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, out in that area, I think some of the land is kind of pitched above
Yes.
the river. And is this property, part of the, does it have a bench there and is it above that?
Yeah, I love that. That's a great description, actually. So it does sit on kind of
That's
a bench. The river in the floodplain, that 100-year floodplain falls down in the river area there. And there's a little bench that comes up, and that's why it's protected a little bit from that flood area associated with that bench. So great question.
Anyone else who would like to make a comment from the public? We have a motion to close the public hearing.
I move we close the public hearing.
I'll second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That motion carries. So let's have some discussion, beginning with Nora.
All my concerns will be addressed at the subdivision.
Yeah, I don't think it's any surprise. I'm concerned about that density. I think it's fair to describe the proposal as being PGA 4. It's not incorrect to say there is a bit of PGA 3 in it, but I think that's really not the way it should be thought about. And I note that we have now, I think to good purpose, defined some two lower density residential zonings to allow the county to buffer between straight ag 35 acre and the much higher density lots that our ranchette provides. I'm also looking at the map and noting that all of the lots on the west side of the tracks, let's use the tracks, and on the west side of the river are the smallest one I could find was 10, and most of them are in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. So I do not agree with the staff report that it is compatible with surrounding land use, nor that it is compatible with the directions of the comprehensive plan with respect to priority growth area 4. So I would be much more receptive to the proposal were it to take advantage of one of the lower density residential zonings that we have provided, and would oppose the application as it has been presented to us. Again, noting, as we always do, that we're not approving a subdivision here. We're approving an envelope of possibilities, which would be 30 new residential lots within that area along the side of the river and along Two Rivers Road. I don't think that is compatible with what we got there now. So there's my 2 bits worth.
Well, it's more than 2 bits. That's good.
8.
Yeah. Well,
So I'm still concerned about the sensitivity of the area in terms of flooding. And I agree with Vern that a lower density would allow to put the buildings further away from the floodplain. So I would, Vern, encourage a lower density proposal on both of them.
Diana?
Yeah, Mr. Hinckley pretty much said what I feel about this. I would be much more supportive of lower density, even though that is the plan to have lower density, then we have to approve the higher density. And that I have a problem with.
Okay.
It's just too much space for a number of reasons.
Well, I generally favor this. The area outlined as PGA 3 could be expanded or changed. I mean, this is an area marked for growth. And I would not expect that to remain fixed over time. I don't see a problem with the soils, particularly with regards to the zoning district amendment. Those things can be addressed in time by architects and engineers if there's soil problems. I mean, that happens all the time when people are building stuff. I mean, notably, think about soil problems with expensive soils down in Colorado that plague developers over the years. I mean, so this is another thing. And around here too, there are also expensive soils. And I mean, I think in the nearby vicinity, within less than a mile, there are plenty of properties that are 5 acres or less. And to me, compatibility of uses is not lot size dependent or parcel size dependent, but the use itself. We're talking about residential uses. So in sum, I would favor approving this. Recommend this. Any further discussion?
I would just say that it may change the zoning, or the plan could change in the future, but it isn't changed now.
Yeah.
That's our guiding document.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Right now it
I
says
agree.
low density, and that this is not low density.
So if there's no further discussion, would someone like to make a motion? Go ahead.
I could do that. I move we recommend that the Board of County Commissioners deny the Bingham zoning district amendment CDA 1025 based on the applicant's failure to demonstrate that the proposed zoning amendment complies with the criteria specified in the Albany County Zoning Resolution, Chapter 3, Section 5. As follows: does not follow the guidelines of the comp plan and is not compatible with surrounding properties. I was referencing C2 and 3A, but if that reference is incorrect, we can straighten that out. That's the substance of my motion.
Is there a second?
I second.
Is there any further discussion? We will proceed to vote in that case. Ms. Kopornik,
The motion is to deny.
the motion is
Aye.
denied. Mr. Hinckley,
Aye.
Mr. David,
Aye.
Ms. Henning,
Aye.
and I vote no, so that motion carries. So thank you all. Thank you to the applicant. And of course, this is our recommendation. County commissioners will decide this one or another. So with that, is there anyone here, he says, who would like to make some citizen comment? I don't see anyone. And y'all are free to leave, y'all. You can stay also, but thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Well, we don't have any citizen comments, looks like. So we will move on to current planning projects, begin with short-term rental discussion. David.
Mr. Chair, thank you. So just to preface all of this, what I've provided today doesn't mean that we're not going forward with what we discussed last time. We just haven't had a chance to get through definitions, the land use table and all of that. But as we were thinking about it, we did decide that it might be prudent to try to get some more information from some folks. We actually have a survey out. I don't know if any of you guys have happened to see it, but there's a survey out. We've collected approximately 100 responses from the survey concerning short-term rentals. When we come back next month, I should have those results for you. I will tell you, it's not scientific. This is just for information purposes, maybe just to kind of get a feel of what people are thinking and saying about this subject. The memo came as we were thinking about the comprehensive plan and how it's developed with robust engagement, public engagement. We collected a lot of information from a lot of people about a lot of things. When we did it, however, short-term rentals weren't a thing. And so that's not something that was addressed or even thought about at that time. It's been a more recent phenomenon, I would say.
Well, let's say a more recent phenomenon around Centennial.
Sure. I mean, obviously they've been around for a while, but the VRBOs and the Airbnbs are pretty recent,
Yeah.
I would say.
Well, that's within that's within the age of internet. But in fact, short-term rentals have been around for forever. And maybe not here, but I mean, anytime you might have wanted to rent a beach house, pretty much on any beach in the United States, you could rent it for a week.
Sure.
And this really common. So they actually have been around for a long time.
So anyways, yeah. But we haven't addressed them or thought about them other than what we hear once every couple of years or whatever. I guess our recommendation would be to think about this, think about potentially doing a comprehensive plan amendment for this purpose and to gather information from community members in, I guess, a more robust way than my survey that we've sent out, and then potentially come up with an amendment to that before we go forward with changing the zoning standards. That being said, this is just for discussion. We're still moving down the same road. We just haven't put together that package of information for you to look at. specifically that we discussed last time. So anyways, those are my comments, my thoughts. If you have questions for me, happy to answer them. If you just want to move on to the next item, we're like, okay, good, thanks, we're done. That's fine too. So
Yeah, so I'm just gonna suggest we have a little bit of a discussion and talk about it a little more. It can be free form, or I can go one person at a time, where what your preferences might be, it's fine. So what might y'all prefer?
I'd like a little discussion of it, but
Yeah.
I'm happy to defer to any of my colleagues.
Okay, well, why don't I call you one at a time, and we can have at least free form in terms of interjecting some comments or questions, and I think that'll work well enough. So, Diane, would you like to begin?
Well, so we have talked about the comp plan being somewhat outdated on a number of issues, right? So
Yes.
are you proposing update the whole thing before?
no, that's,
This
it would be
is-
just this specific area to look at.
Okay, so it wouldn't be the huge project of.
Right. I would love to do the huge project because I do feel like it's outdated and it needs to be updated, but you know, for staff to do that without help of a consultant, I mean, consultants have all the tools. I mean, they have the surveying tools, the engagement tools, where staff, it would be just hard, but like for a little project like this, we could probably handle it, so.
I just wanted to get a scale of what's being proposed.
Yeah. No, just this kind of,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah, so it's a big project, would have to be like budgeted and planned for.
That would be what I would recommend if we do that in the future, yes.
We could do this with the current budget constraints.
Yeah, we could do that as
Okay.
staff, so.
Rob?
So I was super sick and left the meeting last month and tried to follow the recording, but can you just recap what the main topics are that we're trying to, is it how do we define short term? How, what are the things we're trying to, what are we gathering information about?
So what came out of this group, and you guys that were here, obviously you can correct me. I did review it recently, but was basically what was discussed was a definition or definitions to, define, I mean, because what's been pointed out is like, well, a hotel, Airbnb, short-term rentals, they're all short-term rentals, right? They're all overnight. What's the difference? And we don't have any definitions for any of those in our regulations. And hotels and Airbnbs are in the land use table and short-term rentals are not. So that was the kind of the other issue is, so do the definitions and then put short-term rentals and then determine how they go in the land use table. I think those are the two things that we really discussed. I mean, there's a lot of things that were brought up by the public, a lot of things that, snowmobilers driving on somebody else's property, that's a sheriff issue, that has nothing to do with us. Loud parties, we don't have a noise ordinance unless you're putting up wind turbines. Those types of things. But then it was, I guess to put it, I think this is what it was, is just kind of put the backbone in there. And if we ever need to put some flesh on it, we do it in the future, but.
Okay. So I think this is really very important. What are the mechanisms for collecting the data? Are you looking at what other places are doing? Are you asking the public to help define? Are we looking at input from DOT on traffic? I mean, what are the sources of information?
Okay, so the information that we're collecting is basically what are other people doing? How are they defining short-term rentals and how are they kind of regulating those? What I'm looking with the public survey that's out, it's more just getting the impression of like, do you like these? Should they be regulated? How much should they be regulated? So we're not looking at traffic studies or anything like that. So
Is there a way to get some information on like things that might affect the community, I'm thinking Centennial. But, you know, parking, I myself have stayed in Airbnb like many others, and, you know, parking was an issue.
Mhm.
So is there, my point is, what are the points of information we're collecting? To help us define or make a regulation or whatever.
Well, so I mean, that wasn't specified by anybody to collect specific, parking data or traffic data or, so we're not really looking at that.
Okay,
I mean, if there's things to look at and collect, I mean, when it comes to parking, I mean, I don't know what. I mean, for a short-term rental, it would be the same as like a residence, which is kind of their driveway, I would imagine, but I don't know. Yeah, I mean, if there's specific pieces of data you want us to look at, we'd be happy to try. I'm not sure what it would look like or what that would be, so.
okay, thanks.
Vern.
Yeah, and seeing that memo, I had some correspondence with Mr. Gertz. And perhaps I reacted to it as that there was a decision to just let this go until some later date, and I'm reassured that no,
Right.
that you didn't share the whole thing with us. The survey I'm curious about, is that something that just went up on the website, or how did you distribute that, or did I miss it?
Yeah, so it was just kind of thrown together. We're using Microsoft Forms to do it, which is within our Microsoft platform. But we put it on the website. I've sent it out to all the fire districts that we had emails for to send out to their people. Sent it to the e-post, which is a Centennial e-news thing. We sent it to some folks in Tice Sighting that have like a little newsletter. We've sent it. Now, I don't know if this has went out through those. I sent it to the people that run these. There's a Facebook page that's in the Harmony area. I sent it to them to post on their Facebook page. I don't know if they did or not. But like and it's on our Facebook page. So I try to hit some of these groups that are out in the county, and hopefully they've passed it on. And I've got about 100, responses. So
Have
Which,
you tried road districts?
who?
Road district.
Oh, no, I don't think I have that. I mean, that's a
They
good
have
idea.
network, each of them have.
Maybe I'll look at the road districts and the water and sewer districts
Mhm.
as well and see if that's a good idea, just to look at some other folks to shoot an email. And I mean, there's just a link or a QR code to use to take it. So,
If we wanted to see it, we should just look on the website.
yeah.
And part of my question displays my abject ignorance of social media. I don't have hours in my day to do much Facebooking, so.
I don't think that's a bad thing.
I know it sounds like.
I'm not a fan. So.
Good job, so no, thank you for that. So some of this will be a recap for Commissioner David. I guess the first point is we're trying to see, is this a big problem or not? But I think that approach is itself problematic because it implies that we don't do anything until it is a big problem. And as counselor always advises us, you can't go back, then it's all grandfathered. So I do think that there's an argument to be made for getting ahead of these things to the extent we can. We don't just go chasing shadows, but it is a growing issue, and I approve of us trying to get out in front of it rather than waiting until everybody's screaming at each other's throats. To your point, Mr. Chairman, that the spectrum of short-term rentals has now been fully populated between the verbos, VRBOs, and then things which is just a brokerage. It's not a thing, and so is Airbnbs. Then there's what we might call conventional bed and breakfast, hotels. Every motel I've stayed at in the last 10 years has breakfast. So that's why my concern about a first step is defining things like hotels, motels versus bed and breakfast. versus other short-term rentals. Do you have any idea why bed and breakfasts were put on the land use table as a conditional use? Where did that even come from?
It was there before I got here.
Well, I don't know the background,
Okay.
so.
And I guess where my thoughts go there is that this having brought to our attention, I think has exposed a problem with the current setup. And maybe that's solved by getting rid of bed and breakfasts as a thing on the table. I mean, we don't have to solve all these to get at that. It's unfair, it seems to me, for people to come in and ask you, do I need a conditional use permit? What do you tell them? Do you ignore that line of the table, or?
If they're doing a bed and breakfast?
Well, if I come in and say, my kids are all gone, and I got a big house and I want to start renting out rooms, and do I need a permit from the county? Then do you ask me whether I plan on serving breakfast or not? Or how do you handle that discussion? Do I need a conditional use permit or not? I'd like the answer to be no.
I mean, if somebody came in and they said they're doing a bed and breakfast specifically, then we would say you have to do a conditional use.
Well,
If somebody says that we're just doing a short-term rental, then we would say there's no rules.
Well, I don't have to identify it as anything. I'm going to describe a situation where I want to rent out my rooms.
Sure.
And then I'm going to ask you what of my activities triggers the need for a conditional use.
I mean, what I do is I mean, with any use, we just ask the questions that we need to ask and make our best decision on that. So on what their answers are. If there's a building that's part of it, then obviously we have the plans and things to look at to make sure that they're doing what they're saying they're doing. But yeah, we do the best we can. That's
well, but I guess I'm suggesting that we don't have a good answer. You, the county, to what's a bed and breakfast. I need a conditional use permit if I'm giving them a fried egg in the morning versus not? Is that what triggers the need for a conditional use permit? And my question is somewhat facetious. I'm thinking the answer is we don't have an answer. Am I wrong?
Definition of bed and breakfast is an establishment offering lodging and breakfast.
Okay, that would apply.
Airbnbs and VRBOs generally do not have an expectation that breakfast will be served to you.
Hilton Garden Inn does.
a hotel.
Right. So I said Airbnb or VRBO.
Okay.
So short-term rentals.
Okay, well, then I go back to the discussion that we did have a lot of, and my understanding from commissioners at the far end of the table was that the thing they were most sensitive to, what the government intended, was they wanted an on-site representative. But that was what we thought, yeah, that makes a good sense. So what we have right now is somewhat backwards from that. We are requiring you to have a conditional use permit if you do have somebody there looking after the place and providing breakfast, and not if you don't. So that's backwards. So that's what suggests to me that we should delete bed and breakfast from our land use table, unless we have some good reason for it to be there rather than just inertia. To try to, well, Brett, just a few more thoughts I'd like to share with you in terms of what we could do going forward. One would be to strike that from the table because it is inconsistent with what I understand our interests. And I would suggest that we don't have a definition that's clear enough to satisfy me that I could say, well, that's a bed and breakfast and that is not. If it's hinging on what counts as breakfast, that seems pretty precious. So that's why I'd get rid of that or replace bed and breakfast in the table with short-term rental. And the state does provide us a definition of short-term rental. We haven't adopted it into zoning yet, but for purposes of application of the lodging tax, there is statutory language available to us that would define a thing called short-term rental. So that is a thing. Bed and breakfast, I don't think is, with all due respect for Mr. Ayers. So we could change the land use table to say short-term rental and adopt the state's definition of short-term rental. And then I'm also looking at the home business, which I think is compatible with what we heard last time. If the primary use of the building is commercial, then it isn't a home business. So if we had a situation where short-term rentals were exempted from zoning restrictions under the umbrella of home business, I think that would satisfy a lot of the concerns that we have to us. Again, kind of throwing these out for your reaction. But I do think that the current regulations are objectionable for those reasons.
I mean, I agree that we should define them. I think bed and breakfasts are more like an inn than anything. Like you could have, you know, you could have multiple families that are staying in the same house. So you have actually more traffic than potentially than a short-term rental would. You are having people there that are dining together, and there's health things with eating food in a, you know, so I mean, there's more stuff that goes into a bed and breakfast than just listing a place to stay overnight and just staying there and then leaving, you know, typically without breakfast, and it's typically like one family. And I mean, I guess it doesn't have to be, because there are like Airbnb. I think that's how it started, was like they're renting out rooms. But I mean, I would, I mean, if we're going to go down that route, I would leave bed and breakfast, but just define it so that we know where the sideboards are on each of these things, and have obviously a definition for short-term rentals.
Although I guess where that would be going is we would be defining it contrary to what we heard our interests were last month. We would like to make it easier to have a short-term rental where there was an on-site representative there that was keeping people from shooting up the countryside and doing all the things that we hear from Centennial. That would be preferable to us. Which
a lot of that is outside of our realm, though. Like some of that nuisance stuff going on other people's properties, trespassing,
right? But I think we could
shooting, like in the neighborhood.
Nuisances
I mean,
would be less in a situation where you have on-site representatives, and some of the people who have attempted to define short-term rental and regulate them around the country have keyed it to, is there a representative on site or one who's designated within 10 minutes or so? That's what we see when we look at short-term rental things around the countryside. And like I say, I'm sympathetic to that. I thought I heard a lot of sympathy for that from this commission, which means if you were to define bed and breakfast in the way that you seem to be headed, that would be the opposite of what we seem to think it would be best for the citizens of Albany County, which is why I'd like to get rid of bed and breakfast rather than forcing you to decide whether a buffet with a few granola bars and a coffee, is that a breakfast? I mean, then I'll just get so smeared out, whereas short-term rentals is a thing and in-home business is a thing that is currently defined.
So bed and breakfasts are a thing too. They're across the nation. We may not define them, but
I've stayed in a lot of places. In some cases, it's a room, and the person is there, and they ask for breakfast in the morning. Some places it's a room where there's just kind of a buffet laid out. Some cases it's a room that you just get a code for over your phone, and you get in and you get out. I don't know which one of those is a official bed and breakfast or not.
sure.
All right. So anyway, there's
Just like anything, like you try to, this is what it is, but it's really all these things in the between. So
zoning it's all about drawing lines, and that's difficult, I admit.
sure.
And so we should draw them in coherent and applicable, enforceable ways. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Question for you, Brian. What is the definition of short-term rentals in the state?
Overnight lodging for less than 30 days.
Consecutive days.
Consecutive days, that what it is.
30 seconds.
It's, I could give you, it's Wyoming statute 3915-101A. Sub I is where the state has actually defined that. Oh, let me add one more thing to that. I asked the assessor if we could identify all of those, and the answer is yes, because they're all paying lodging tax.
So short-term rentals.
Yes, yeah, short-term rentals, people that are subject to the lodging tax. Now, a lot of people aren't paying the lodging tax.
That's what I'm saying. I was like, I don't know if we can actually identify
We
them
can
unless
identify all the people who are paying lodging tax.
Yes,
That's
sure.
So
sure.
that's all the people who are legally
right.
inviting folks to rent their rooms. Yeah, I can't go beyond that, but yes.
That makes sense.
And I would pass that along to you, the folks from Centennial, kind of fish it out of listings on the internet and so forth. But again, there is a official state definition of short-term rentals, and you are legally required to declare yourself. Those names are all known.
Just one comment. The notion that Airbnb or available, whatever, is one family coming in for a night or two. That was the beginning. You should see what our graduate students do when they go to conferences and rent an Airbnb. You can have 35 graduate students. So it
Yeah.
can really easily get out of hand.
Yeah.
Oh, of course it can.
I'm just
That
going.
can happen with long-term rentals too.
I don't know if this is a good idea, but I wonder, I mean, a lot of the problems we heard about were actually law enforcement problems.
Right.
Has anybody talked to the sheriff's department about what kind of regulations might be useful? Would they have some insights, do you think?
I mean, they wouldn't enforce our regulations.
Not force them, but just ask them what they think would be helpful. 'Cause
Okay.
they
You can
get,
reach out.
they get a mop up
So
everything, right?
you can, request to speak with the sheriff. I mean, I'll tell you that anything on the regulation side for zoning is gonna be handled slowly. Whereas a sheriff's, deputy can issue a citation or arrest someone on the spot.
Mhm. Yeah, and I'm not, I just wonder if they would have some helpful suggestions as to what kind of zoning regulations might make this work better, because it's not working for some people right now, right? But a lot of it is law enforcement. And I don't know, maybe we could change the regulations to somehow make their job easier, like if having an on-site agent would help. Maybe that's something that they would suggest. I don't know if it's a good idea or not. I'm just throwing it out there.
If there's a violation of the law, the sheriff's office needs to know about it.
Yes. They don't get there in time is what we were told to deal with a lot of it.
Well, that's what we were told.
That's what we were told.
Vern, are you finished?
Yeah, I guess I just would like to explore that option of removing something from the table and then just a general notion of it changes the character of the neighborhood. So this is kind of the squishy part of zoning. It isn't a put your finger on it, health and safety issue. Like say the APOZ, where we can pin that to scientific data and what's going on. But I think we do recognize under the general rubric of zoning that we're preserving quality of life, neighborhoods, how many people are driving down the road, whether they're driving too fast or not isn't a law enforcement issue. So I just would make the pitch that I think some of these character of the neighborhood kinds of issues are appropriate for zoning, and using that authority quite judiciously and sparingly. So I'm listening when I hear the people that say, I don't want my subdivision, my town to be converted slowly into nothing but short-term rentals. And again, that would be argument for trying to get ahead of it. Joe.
Yeah, I guess, I have some thoughts on our end of it, especially with the enforcement, that I think should be thought about. I don't know if anyone has. With enforcements, we can't go on people's properties, we can't go in people's houses. And minus a listing, we need to be able to enforce something. So when you're driving down a street, you can't tell me that one house is a short-term rental and one house is a regular house without having a listing. So we need to know how we would be able to enforce something like that.
Yeah, well, so I'll say a few things. If you'll entertain me. Since our last meeting, I talked to quite a few people. I did a fair amount of reading. I talked to our staff here. And I also talked to planning departments from sublet and counties here in Wyoming. Both those counties have been regulating short-term rentals. It's explicit. If you look at what Sublette County has, they have a certificate process. We've discussed a little bit at our meeting last time. Clark County has been regulating short-term rentals, although if you look at their zoning resolution, it's difficult to see that. And they regulate it under, if I remember the term right, tourist-oriented commercial businesses, something like that. And right now they're in the process of drafting up a set of specific short-term rental regulations that looks very similar to what Sublette County has. They're not enacted yet, they're not done yet, but it sounds like they're planning to go through with that. And if you look around other counties that regulate short-term rentals, you'll find similar sort of sets of regulations around the country. I listened to all the comments we got, both in person and by email prior to our last meeting and at our last meeting. And, the folks out in Centennial, they're unhappy. To me, they kind of sympathetic figures. But over time, things change. And it's not our job to prevent change. And anytime change occurs, there are going to be people unhappy. That's pretty much inevitable. And my conclusion after doing my own thinking and talking to various people, like as I said, is that we don't have a problem right now we need to address this moment. It's not that severe. Much of what was discussed would fall in the category of general nuisances. And nuisances in a general meaning, not nuisances under our zoning resolution type definition that could be addressed and enforced. We are not here to enforce criminal violations. That is the sheriff's department. Hopefully the folks out there, when they see a criminal violation, they're calling the sheriff's department and press the complaint. I don't think we have any reason to believe they're being ignored by the sheriff's department. They sort of said that, they've tried and it takes forever to get some sort of response, but that, as far as one sort of hearsay, and I have no reason to believe that our sheriff's department is not responsive. And I believe we should continue looking at this, but like I said, right now, I just don't think it's a problem rises to our level that we need to do something right now. And I am very sympathetic to what a number of people, both at city planning and our own staff, have said. That if the folks out there are really unhappy and it's a significant majority, they ought to take action themselves and get on with it. And whether that means forming new HOAs or upgrading their existing HOAs, or ultimately incorporating and run their community like the way they want to do it, I think that's the better course of action. And I think it's fine if we continue to study it and listen, think, and whatnot. As a special aside, with regards to bed and breakfast, I think bed and breakfast, there's a general understanding of the public what a bed and breakfast is. It's different from short-term rental. It's different from a hotel. And if we have a line for bed and breakfast, that to me doesn't bother me a bit. And I don't think, I don't know if y'all have an idea. I can't imagine there's all that many bed and breakfasts here in the county. So I don't see it as something which is, I don't think it's something a productive way to spend time talking about. I don't know if there's 4 or 6 or 8, but I don't think it's a whole lot. Could be wrong. Anyway, so that's what I've concluded. I don't think we need to take action right now. I would not personally recommend taking action. So that's where I stand. More comments.
Can we ask our fearless leader here?
Absolutely.
How many conditional use permits for bed and breakfasts do we have?
Conditional use permits?
Yeah, they're supposed to have them.
We could look. You wanna pull that up, Jeff?
More than 0?
He'll look it up. There's not a whole lot. I know of existing ones that they'll probably be here forever. I mean, the V Bar's got a bed and breakfast there. I know there's one that's out south of town, but probably not more than I don't know if we have any conditional use permits because they probably are all here before or allowed or something. But one thing I was gonna say is I did some Airbnb VRBO research today and just looking around the county, and I didn't get around up to the north part. I'm sure there's probably 100, up by Hubbard's Cupboard of those Airbnbs and stuff. But no, just looking around, Centennial is the predominant, place for the short-term rentals. There's, Jelm's got 2 maybe. there's not a whole lot down there either. Jelm, like I found one in Jelm, one or two in the Jelm area. And then you go down to like Waikolo and there was like one or so there. And I think there's one in Fox Park, but like the concentration really is in the Centennial area. I mean, there's the 28 properties, not individual, rentals, but like 28 properties. In Centennial, that was what was given to us by Miss Tilly. Yeah, so that's the predominant place for short-term rentals in the county. So I guess I can understand that, it's a little different right there than it is anywhere else because there's really not a whole lot. Even like just around Laramie, most of those are in Laramie. And my research wasn't scientific and I didn't, see everything, but like just from doing that, it was kind of like, oh, well, there's really not a whole lot around other than in that Centennial Valley right there. So
So
Did
out
you
of
find-
your 100.
there's two.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, two
Two
conditional
bed and
uses.
breakfast.
with permits.
Permits, yeah. Sorry, Diane.
So out of your 100 responses, did people seem to care? People interested in this issue?
Oh, yeah, it seems like they're pretty interested. Yeah.
Do they think it's a problem, unregulated?
I haven't really like looked at all the data. I've been trying to like, wait for the surprise at the end, But I have kind of looked, just the metrics or whatever. There's a lot of people that would like regulations. But I think more than like no regulation at all. And some people it really bothers them, some people it doesn't. And I'll tell you that the majority of those I think are 82055. I think that's the zip code.
That's Centennial?
Yes. Is that right?
Yeah.
2055? Yeah. They're from 82055. So they're from the Centennial area. So
Of course, if they are bothered, they're more likely to do the survey probably. So it's-
yeah.
No, it's not scientific. It's not random.
Oh, I did send it to Michelle Tilley too, and so she was able to send it out to her people. So yeah.
So I have a question. What is the problem with Burns' suggestion, which I like a lot, to change instead of saying bed and breakfast, say short-term rental, for which we have a definition, a state definition? Why would that be a big deal?
I mean, I just feel like they're two different things. But if you guys feel like they're the same thing, then I guess we could go that route. So
It seems like if the state treats them differently, we should be consistent with the state. And I think.
Well, that's for the purpose of taxation. And it's the same thing that we see all the time. How you're assessed doesn't mean your land use.
Right, but the land use, I see the land use as being different from each other. In that you have an on-site property person at the bed and breakfast with a short-term rental, you don't. And that, like I wouldn't want to ditch it from the land use table because I think there's an increase in traffic and an increase in things that could matter to a neighborhood where a bed and breakfast exists that you'd want to have a conditional use permit. Just like at the city level, if you wanted to do a daycare, you have to get a conditional use permit because it may matter to some neighbors whether you're suddenly going to have a bunch of kids playing out in the yard, making noise and having traffic with drop off and pickup. Like I feel it's an equivalent potential disruptor to a neighborhood that it merits a conditional use permit. So I wouldn't favor taking it off the land use table. I would just favor adding, if the decision is made to try to do something with short-term rentals, that it just comes on the land use table with its own definition and that you don't ditch the bed and breakfast.
So my point and why I support Burns' suggestion is, in terms of disrupting the neighborhood, short-term rental covers both bed and breakfast and Airbnb or whatever other thing will come up in the future. It's more comprehensive. So it's not eliminating bed and breakfast from the table. It's just making the definition a little more broad and consistent with the state. I like that.
Question for Mr. Gertz?
Sure, go ahead.
Let's ruminate a bit on conditional use and this idea of enforcement and so forth. On one hand, we shouldn't pass laws that are just crazy unenforceable, but on the other hand, we can't corral all illegal activity, like the folks that are supposed to be paying lodging tax and aren't.
But we're trying.
That's what we're trying, yes, valiantly. It's not a reason to not have a lodging tax because you're not going to apply it to everybody.
Sure.
So when I think of what something is a conditional use, I don't see the cops rolling in and jerking out the sink. I see at the point of issuing a conditional use permit, it's noticed. Neighbors at that point are invited to object, and for whatever reasons they want to. So it's that permitting that I think is a value, and that's the point at which we then expose a potential use to the neighborhood. And then somebody, us advising the board, can say, that's incompatible, that's too much, that's out in the middle of nowhere, who cares? And so am I right to be thinking of conditional uses that way, that this just kind of gives you an opportunity at the threshold to?
So, I mean, I think like that's all fine. But what are the parameters? Yeah, we have our findings necessary for approval. None of those findings are related to, I guess, neighbor opposition. But then there's also the issue of land use plans. I think both in the zoning and in the comp plan, there needs to be a geographical aspect to that, where this use should be allowed generally. Or is it just on an ad hoc basis?
But isn't that covered by, we make it a conditional use within residential zonings? So we're not just saying anywhere. And when you look at the conditional use findings, it's not bang, 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 but in that language are health, safety, welfare, compatibility with neighborhoods, that those concepts are embodied to some extent in the criteria for approving a conditional use. And so that would, to me, take care of your geographic issue. It is, conditional uses are geographically dependent. Are they an appropriate add-on to the zoning here, but perhaps not over here, and you're able to evaluate them on a case-by-case basis?
Vern, so that I understand what you're suggesting. Are you suggesting we should apply conditional use to short-term rentals?
That would be
Okay, so you're not talking about bed and breakfast now.
Well, I am. Bed and breakfasts are a
Yeah,
short-term
but we
rental.
were talking about short-term rentals. That's why I was.
This
Yeah.
thing called short-term rentals, which is renting lodging for less than
Yeah.
31 days. And then
Yeah.
whether you give them a sandwich or not, I think is irrelevant.
Yeah. So the problem I see with that is that if we require short-term rentals to come in for conditional use, then once that's granted, then that runs that property forever. Right now, it appears to me that most of these houses out in Centennial that are being used for short-term rentals are vacation houses, bought for vacation house purposes, where the owners are using the property for part of the year, and of course, they're income this year. That makes perfect sense. And those houses are likely to continue to be bought and sold with owner turnover. And that's the problem I see with the conditional use.
Well, that it doesn't run.
Yeah.
They'd have to renew it every time. That's your,
Well, no, I'm saying that's the problem I see with the conditional uses we have it right now. You know, today, when we grant a conditional use for the property, it runs to the property.
No.
no, it expires with the,
No, that's if it's not put to use.
Conditional use run on the property forever as long as they're being used that way.
And I think with short-term rentals, if we want to make a conditional use, it should be limited in some way. So that's why I would not favor.
Which my legal advice is that you cannot.
Yeah, and that's one of the discussions Matt and I've had, and Matt, if I also, we talked about that at our previous meeting.
I'm sorry, explain that to those of us who aren't part of those discussions. What cannot?
So that's what I said at the last meeting, is that it can't be a license. It can't be something that has to be renewed every year. There's only one type of anything that is statutory authorized by zoning, and it's a zoning certificate. Conditional use permit is a type of zoning certificate, and statute doesn't speak to, renewing a zoning certificate. It just says zoning certificate for the use and the structures. And if you go under the general maxims of statutory construction that are consistently employed by the Wyoming Supreme Court, that sort of power, which the legislature is very familiar with authorizing, a licensing power, is not granted explicitly by the zoning statutes. Therefore, the county does not have that authority.
I understand that. Now, I don't see, however, that's particularly relevant. I mean, my point would be somebody comes in and says, I want to turn this into a short-term rental. They are granted a conditional use permit. That is a decision that one makes with the understanding that that's forever or for the next 2 weeks. So I guess I don't know why that would argue one way or another on whether it was appropriate to bring it under the envelope of some conditional uses.
And it's just what I think. It's not like I'm arguing it's right, universally right, whatnot. I think is a good principle. It would be better to do that through a permitting process rather than a conditional use that runs forever. And that's what Sublet and Park County are doing. And it's a question of,
How's the conditional use permit going to address the problems experienced in Centennial? They were complaining about nuisances and noise and trespassing, so how would those problems be resolved by a conditional?
and that's exactly why, to me, it'd be better if you were to regulate things and forget about what we're allowed to do or not allowed to do. You would do it through a permitting process that would be renewed on an annual basis or some basis, regularly, where if there'd been a problem with that property, you don't get renewed.
Okay, so that's how it would address it.
Yeah, that's one way, yeah.
No, but that's a way that's not available to us.
Well, that's what Park County and Sublette County are doing.
The advice we're getting here is that's not available to us.
But our conditional use permit would not address.
My
those
answer to your question would be, it would not address that. It would be a step in the direction of corralling the decision of even to have this thing or not. Because you would be fearful or not fearful of people shooting up the countryside and killing your dog or whatever it happened to be. So no, it would only partially address those concerns. It would address them at that land use. How do we want this neighborhood to develop at that level?
But okay, so as Mr. Cole pointed out last time, there's people on ranches out there. Correct me if I misrepresent what I heard you say. But there's people renting out short-term rentals to hunters, and they're not in neighborhoods, and it's not residential. It's out there on a ranch somewhere. It's not causing any problems. But applying for a conditional use permit is not a trivial process, right? I mean, you got to hire somebody, you got to do surveys, you got to do, it's expensive. You got to pay for it. So it just should have, if we were going to require that, there should be a real payoff for that. It should really address the problems that we're seeing, and I don't see that it would.
Is it hard? I mean, let's get a response to that. I guess I had not understood a conditional use permit to be an arduous process. It isn't like you're putting out a plat, hiring surveyors or anything. What does it take to get a conditional use permit?
Well, I mean, the filling out the application is not the thing. It's coming to this meeting when all of your neighbors show up and are upset about something you're going to do, which would happen for every application in the Centennial area. So by requiring a conditional use permit, I would predict that the majority of those would not be approved by the Board of County Commissioners because of the neighborhood show up with the pitchfork factor, So if we don't want to have them, then let's go that route, I really think that's what's going to happen, which I think if I was a business owner in Centennial, that's shooting yourself in the foot. That's all those people that are probably now going to stay in Laramie because they want to stay in a 12 or 2,000 foot or square foot house, which you can't just rent one of the hotel rooms and get the same deal. They're going to come to Laramie, and now they're not eating in Centennial. They're not, I just don't understand the whole thing there, but.
I have one question.
Okay.
Why is that not a problem, the same problem for bed and breakfast?
Bed and breakfast aren't really an issue. There's only.
Bed and breakfast is fundamentally different than a short-term rental is a residential structure where you're renting out the entire thing.
That does not.
Then find me an Airbnb or a VRBO in the county where you don't get the entire house.
Well, I don't know everybody in the county, but there's certainly Airbnbs where you don't get the whole house. I just went 2 blocks down the street from me. I mean, that's it.
In Laramie.
In Laramie, yeah.
Yeah, find the same in the county.
Well, that's just a function of my experience. I mean, the concept is exactly the same. Why would there not be one?
Exactly. So if they're living, if someone's actually living in the main area, that's like their permanent residence. Bed and breakfast, you have multiple rooms, multiple rental units, all under one roof, where it's much more of a commercial activity than just letting someone have your house for a weekend.
Generally, bed and breakfast are operator business, and that's how people are making income.
Sometimes.
A short-term, well, not sometimes, generally.
I've been to lots of these.
I don't understand you people. I have stayed in places that call themselves bed and breakfast, Airbnb. By the way, Airbnb is short for air bed and breakfast. So you just log online Airbnb. I just don't understand it. We have to understand it. If we are putting conditional use permit requests for bed and breakfast, we should do it for all short-term rentals. I don't understand. You don't want the pitchforks in this? Take it all out. I think we should have a permitting process, but that's me.
I mean, back to your point, Mr. Hinckley, like if we decide that we want to do short-term rentals and we want to make them conditional use alongside the Airbnb or just a bed and breakfast, there really isn't a reason to have a bed and breakfast definition. We could just use that one if we're doing the exact same thing.
Yes.
So, right.
Yes.
If that's the way that you guys go or whatever.
I don't think bed and breakfast is a thing. I mean, I understand.
I mean, I think they're different, but if we're treating them the same way, there's no reason to have 2 definitions, so.
And I don't think it's an important thing. Okay. We're really on the same side. Well, okay, y'all, we've talked about this for a while. Is there anyone else like to say anything else substantive, or have we talked about this enough?
I just wonder if the survey were to be posted on the main part of the Albany County webpage instead of embedded down into the planning department.
We could try to get that on there, yeah.
I just wonder if it would get more traffic.
That's good.
Yeah, we'll submit that to the IT to get on.
By the way, nice. You guys keep improving the webpage. It's really.
If it's.
You guys, huh?
Joe's the web.
Joe.
All right, go Joe, go Joe.
It's very contemporary and modern.
That's Joe.
Unlike some of us.
Contemporary.
I mean, to that point, seriously, think about the time we have been involved. We haven't been all on the board the same amount of time, the commission the same amount of time, but we've seen some substantial changes. We've made some substantial changes all together. I mean, I'm not dismissing, I mean, staff. We've done a lot. And I think we've done a lot to our credit, frankly. So with that, how are we about to move on to livestock production, which I've been looking forward to all evening? David.
I figured you would be waiting for this.
Oh,
one.
I'm really
I'm so excited.
We may not look like cowboys back here, but.
All right. So yeah, we were approached by one of our past subdivision applicants. And they were requesting some changes to how we zoned livestock production, basically because of the fencing standards. And so obviously the minimum fencing standards were mandated through the statute, which has caused some irritation for pretty much every applicant for a subdivision since that has been implemented. And so what I'm proposing, what we're proposing, I worked with Mr. Ayers on this, is to basically define where commercial livestock can be ran and where it can't be ran. And then also we have a standard that allows pretty much that if you have 4-H animals or a small incidental type use of livestock and stuff, then you can pretty much have that anywhere, but it has to be fenced. So by doing what we're doing here, which if you look at the standards that we're proposing, we define livestock production, grazing, and storage of related equipment. Just a kind of a basic definition there. We remove commercial from the definition or the use, and then we prohibited livestock production, basically small residential, urban residential, commercial, neighborhood business, and industrial, and then included that standard in the chapter 6 that basically says incidental small scale livestock production and grazing for personal use basically can be done as long as it's fenced in or otherwise enclosed. By doing this, we've now kind of put some sideboards on where livestock can be run at large, basically, because they're required to get or if they were required to get a conditional use, or if it's prohibited in a zone, now they can't legally run livestock on those. So any of those zones, if somebody's doing a subdivision, now they don't have to build the fence. Yeah. And so this is kind of how we've taken what the state has given us, and now we're working within our own framework to really define what, at large grazing means basically, for the county. The one thing that I would consider or have you consider is the ranchette zone, potentially put it as a conditional use. Those are 5-acre lots. I'm not sure if livestock production at a commercial rate is needed there without a conditional use, and that helps us. Well, yeah. But we've defined what incidental is too. Like, so if it's,
But
anyways.
my challenge to you there in terms of, I mean, any residential land that is not developed yet, pretty much its only economic use in Albany County is livestock grazing. So I'm not sure that could potentially draw challenges.
From a conditional use in ranchette?
In ranchette? Well, just the more that you restrict it.
Right, I would just leave it at ranchette, like anything that's more than the 5-acre lot size, I would leave as allowed. Or that was what I was proposing. And we don't even have to do it with ranchette. I mean, we could leave that one. I mean, ranchette to me is always, when it was rural residential, it's more of that buffer, between like the more dense small lot residential and the agricultural uses. You should be able to do some kind of quasi agricultural residential stuff in there. So, but anyways, this is for your discussion. We don't have to make any decisions tonight, but we can discuss it. And if this is a good idea, we can go this route. If we don't like this, we don't have to do this either. So we can just keep doing what we're doing. So,
Laura, what are your thoughts?
I guess it would be to add just a few more guardrails to how small an operation is when you say that it's incidental, like how many animal units would you be allowing that I would just want to see that kind of defined because you may say, I'm gonna have six head to slaughter for my extended family. It's personal use, it's not commercial, but could you have too many animal units on a lot? lot would be my concern.
So everything in the zoning resolution, which is not defined, is defined by its plain and ordinary meaning, which is dictionary definition. So incidental is being likely to ensue as a chance or minor consequence, or just minor.
It should
I
be,
mean, it
it shouldn't be the principal use on the property. The principal use should be a home, probably with a family and some outbuildings or whatever. But I don't know.
Okay.
Do we want to?
I don't know if you do. I mean, what?
I mean,
Then are we got, then you, I mean, it wouldn't be having 6 chickens, that's livestock, you know. Is that a lot? I don't know if that fits within the definition of livestock.
I think we looked at livestock and it pretty much includes everything.
Yeah, under statute.
Yep. Yep.
So, yeah, then, I mean, we get into
Chickens or livestock?
types of animals.
Mhm.
Who knew?
Yeah. Do we
Or do
still
you have a number in mind?
I don't have a number. I'm sort of trying to remember how,
We have a chart.
well, it's, yeah, it's
Good for CAFOs,
well,
right?
it's the feedlot, stockyard, livestock confinement operation, any parcel of land containing less than 35 acres having greater than 10 animal units per acre continuously in a corral for more than 180 days in any 12-month period. All animal units shall be based upon the following unit equivalents. So basically it's, you're considered a feedlot, stockyard, livestock confinement operation if you have more than 10 animal units. So that could be 10 cows, that could be 30 swine, that could be 20 goats, that could be, well, it doesn't have chickens. Chickens are not.
It's supposed to be a pile of chickens.
You could have like I guess that you could do whatever you want and have free ranging chickens that really can't range, you know, like some of these places have. But yeah, so if you are going under that then and saying, okay, I'm gonna have 9 animal units, I'm gonna have 9 cows, I'm gonna have 27 swine. So I mean that it just by definition of what is a feedlot stockyard, if you go 1 animal unit under that, then could you argue you're incidental? If you're not doing it for profit, that's why I'm just wondering about. I don't know what that number should be. I would assume somebody in the extension at UW Ag Extension might have an idea about like what's reasonable to put on a certain size acreage for the acreage but I don't have the answer. I just know that it's sort of open-ended to just say, okay, well, nine cows are incidental, possibly. I don't know.
Well, it's twofold. It has to be incidental and then principally not for commercial use and for personal use.
Right.
Well, and honestly, the big thing for me is it has to be fenced in. Like, I don't.
Right, yeah, no, I know that's the ultimate, it's this fencing to take care of the bigger subdivision.
And the thing is, you can't the fencing regulations that we have are not going to fencing chickens. So you can have 300 chickens.
Well, so that's only a
Subdivision
stage though.
What?
Subdivision, so that's not.
Gotta fence out those chickens.
You can come in later and once it's all subdivided and put in a completely different fence. If you would like.
Right.
I'm just saying that the fencing is not going to stop chickens.
No.
Regardless.
No. Diana, what are your thoughts?
I thought we were fencing out of the subdivisions.
Right.
So I'm a little confused as to why we're fencing out, like the livestock are outside the subdivision and the subdivider has to fence that livestock out.
Yes.
Yeah. Right, so why are you making regs for what's going on inside the subdivision?
No.
Well, this isn't inside this I mean, it could be inside the subdivision.
Well,
It's into different zoning categories.
It's trying to help people not have to fence in if there are no free ranging cattle in their
but
neighborhood.
we're a fence out state.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sort of.
Sort of, except for we have to now,
Now it's a mandatory.
now it's mandatory fence out.
Yeah,
So
it's
it
essentially,
depends what's outside the subdivision, doesn't it?
it's
Not what-
well, yeah, it does. It does. And I mean, the whole premise of fence out is that if you want them out, that's what you have to do. But you don't have to do that.
I mean,
The difference
that
is
you
that
do
if you the fence out is about liability for trespassing animals. And now the legislature has said, it doesn't matter. We're not even looking at liability if you're just adjacent to any land upon which livestock can be legally run at large, which is essentially any land, absent a zoning resolution. That now you have to fence out. Whereas before it was always up to the discretion of landowners, whether they wanted trespassing stock on their land or not. Because if you don't put a fence up, any livestock that strays onto your land and causes damage, the owner of those stock is not liable to you.
And if the livestock gets injured on your land, you're liable for the injury to the livestock.
Maybe that gets into your duty of care and tort. So it depends on the type of harm that befalls the cattle and whether you have a duty to prevent it from that harm.
Diana, it's very simple. It's like we had applications that we had to approve the variance of the fencing.
Right.
They applied. They didn't want to put a fence in saying there is no free ranging cattle in the area. Why do I need?
Because of the zoning outside the subdivision.
Because of,
Yeah.
whatever we have
Okay, so
there.
that's what we're talking about, is the zoning outside the subdivision.
Yeah,
yes.
Okay, that's what I was just trying to clarify.
Okay, sorry.
Okay,
because right now, under our zoning resolution, livestock can be run at large on any land in any zoning district. And then basically, I mean, unless it is a state highway or a railroad right of way, and there are fences upon those, then it can also, there's no state prescription for where.
So Diana, with that in mind.
I think I get it now. You kind of lost me on where, because you were talking about, Mr. Gertz was talking about fencing them in.
No.
And I thought we were talking about fencing them out. That's
Oh,
where you lost
yeah.
me.
Yeah.
But now, how do you feel
Fencing
about
them in
it?
on the properties outside of the. Whatever.
Well, I mean, if it's not developed high density residential area, like Mr. Ayers was saying, then it could be used for.
Yeah.
For grazing. We're trying to rule out.
So, and I guess looking at the land use table and how we have it, I mean, and somebody, I think maybe it was Maura said, it's like, well, we should figure out how much the land can handle. Like, if you're going to graze something on land, you probably like one cow per 50 acres in this county. Like, unless it's in some really good wetland area where it's growing some good grass or something. But unless you're feeding them on the property, you're not raising livestock commercially on 5 acres. You're just not,
Yeah, but you can feed them.
You could, yeah.
You could
And then-
lease it. from
And then you
someone.
could be getting into the CAFO standards at some point, but what was it, 10 units per acre or something?
Rob, how do you feel?
I think it's a good idea. I say the less fences, the better for wildlife. The problem will go between the houses everywhere. And the less fencing we have, the better. So I like the idea, but I see more as need for more definition of how many animals are we talking about?
Vern?
Yeah, and I'm totally with Diana on this. I started out what are we doing here? The state statute says you've got to fence your subdivisions. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes.
if it's adjacent to lands upon which
Okay.
livestock can be
So
run at
the
large.
relief that this proposal would provide is if I am surrounded by one of these zonings.
Zones, yes,
So that seems
One of the prohibited zones.
one of the prohibited zones.
or conditional use zone.
That seems, I mean,
It's not gonna happen very often.
right. The relief that this provides seems to be very small because odds are across the fence is gonna be ag land or one of these allowed residential areas. So does this really do much to say you're going to?
Well, it
support
does.
me with
I mean, we would have saved Mr. Olson from going around and getting all the letters from his neighbors. We would have saved, what's that?
That was, it was the industrial subdivision.
The industrial
Yeah.
subdivision.
Why would it not?
Because he's surrounded by small lot residential.
That's what I'm saying. He wouldn't have had to done that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep, we would have saved him for doing that. I'm not sure about coffee subdivision. Like
That
That
was
was,
the one I was
he's,
thinking
he's.
of.
that one was
border
weird
exempt
because
land.
he's, yeah, bordering exempt land, which cattle, I guess, can go down the highway and then get on his land, but,
That's because.
But like- really what this does is it's just for those subdivisions that are in the more dense areas already. Because, I mean, if it's in an ag area, that's what it's for, you know, they're gonna have to do that. That's just part of it, you know?
Yeah.
So we got, so my first reaction is very limited relief, and if that's useful, I
Sure.
don't know.
I think it is.
The second question I had was, why are we prohibiting it? Couldn't a livestock operation be a commercial or industrial operation? I mean, I don't understand that. You're saying you can't raise livestock on a commercial. What if my commercial activity is raising livestock or processing or something or other? Why are you prohibiting livestock on commercial and industrial?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we could just do those conditional use. I guess I wouldn't have a problem with that. I mean, commercial is typically for businesses and those types of things. Industrial obviously is, yeah, I mean, could have bad stuff in industrial areas. I don't know. But I'd be happy with not doing just prohibited. You could do a conditional use. And that way you could look at the site where it's at and make sure that it's okay to have a bunch of livestock there.
What, I guess, just what's the sense of prohibiting commercial and industrial uses that are livestock production from the get-go? Why aren't those a perfectly useful, good thing to do on a commercial industrial zone?
I don't have a good answer for that.
Okay.
I guess because it's an agricultural use.
Yeah.
You'd have to change up how you define the land use. Because right now, all of that agricultural production is called agricultural use. And whether you think it's compatible to have an agricultural land use on a commercial or industrial property that's next to another industrial property that is, you know, like not good for the animals or not compatible with those land uses.
How do we
Yeah, I mean, if it's in an
define-
area where there's some stuff that maybe is livestock.
I guess I think of industrial as the broadest, do whatever you want.
Sure.
Uh,
Yeah, I mean, I'd be happy, I mean, I would support conditional use for industrial or commercial.
Okay, those were my thoughts.
Well, that's
Okay, I just have one more question.
It is what, that is what it is.
It effectively does the same thing.
I'm not limiting questions here.
Okay, so do
Not yet, anyway.
subdividers already have the option of making the case that the lands adjacent to them are not gonna have cattle on or
They-
livestock on?
They have to get written, I guess, documentation from each of the adjoining property owners.
Oh, that's what you're talking
agreeing
about with Mr. Olson.
that
Okay,
no such fence is required.
okay, I see what you're saying. Right. So they do have an option. They don't actually have to build a fence if there's not gonna be any livestock, but it's a hassle.
Yeah, and if you,
And if one neighbor says, I'm
Yeah.
not signing it, then.
Well,
if you're in a
then-
fight with your neighbor, then.
No, then I think that it's just limited. Wouldn't it just be limited to that shared boundary?
It says any, or does it say?
If one neighbor says, no, build it, you have to build the whole thing.
Yeah, I think it says all
That sounds.
neighbors will have to.
It's a nightmare.
That sounds
Yeah.
Right, which is why Mr. Coffee was like not even gonna attempt
Right.
the process.
And we have several people that won't even attempt it because
They just know the
Yeah.
pitchfork is.
Okay.
All you need is one enable.
it's not working.
Well, I think this is good. And it may be limited in what effect it has, but we do what we can.
Okay.
Um,
We'd like to make it conditional on commercial and industrial. Was it some feedback that's useful?
well, let me ask y'all this. If we address these two issues we have right now, burns conditional versus prohibited, and maybe some idea of livestock numbers, maybe we could get this ready to move forward.
Yeah.
And so why not?
There was one change that. What was it? Where was your change?
I have a few, actually.
Okay, Matt's got a few changes he wants to make in the definitions.
Yeah, so add to the definition, the use of lands and structures. And then I would add additional use standards / permits, add chapter 6, section 9, just in that box within the land use table. And then in chapter 6, section 9, I realize the way that it's written now is that in any district, the incidental small scale livestock production would have to be fenced in or otherwise enclosed. I think that should be limited to only those districts where the principal or commercial use of livestock production, grazing, and storage of related equipment isn't allowed.
That's right.
As of right.
Okay.
So I guess it would be leave incidental small scale livestock production and grazing, which is conducted principally for non-commercial and personal purposes, may occur in any zoning district, period. And then say, if the incidental small scale livestock production and grazing is within a zoning district in which the principal use of livestock production, grazing, and storage of related equipment is not allowed by right, the livestock shall be fenced in or otherwise enclosed.
Everybody get that?
Okay. Clear on that?
Yep.
Okay, Vern, what changes would you like to see with,
I would, again, I don't, you're hoping to come out of this with something that's ready for a public hearing. I guess that's a little ambitious, but the things that I had flagged that I didn't understand about it were why we were doing it prohibited in those two, and that concern would be eliminated by making those conditional uses.
okay,
Just commercial and industrial.
Yeah, I think I'm looking at what you sent around,
Yeah.
neighborhood business, it would be reasonable to prohibit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a
Yep. Makes sense.
definition of-
okay.
Do we need to worry about?
Your suggestion, you don't really want to see this.
Commercial use is defined as having qualities of a business as defined in this chapter. A business, a lawful endeavor for engagement in the purchase, sale, barter, or exchange of goods, wares, merchandise, or services, including the maintenance or conduct of offices, professions, warehouses, or recreation or amusement enterprises. Also see home business. And by the way, the agricultural use allows like beekeeping, which you could see
Yeah.
that being.
Fencing will help with that a lot.
Industrial is defined as. It's not. It's not defined in the definitions. It's probably defined in the land use chapter though. There's agricultural, industrial is. Where are you? The purpose of the zone would be for areas or lands determined appropriate for industrial uses. These uses include the use of land or buildings requiring substantial applications of skill, capital, machinery, or labor in transforming materials into other suitable forms, qualities, or properties.
Very vague. Okay,
Pretty broad.
So would you all be in favor of going along with Vern's suggestion? We make, this use conditional for commercial and industrial or not?
given the definitions, yes.
Okay.
So does that just leave you in jeopardy? Like, okay, I'm the industrial subdivision. I don't want to put a fence in. And I'm surrounded by land where someone could seek a conditional permit. Maybe they don't, you're just basing it on whether you have one now.
Yeah,
So
because
it wouldn't matter about a future.
you don't have a right to actually do it until you secure the permit.
Okay, so it wouldn't create like havoc to have the.
No, because if you do it in a district in which you are required to have a conditional use permit and you just go ahead and do it without a conditional use permit, you've then violated the zoning resolution.
Okay,
But I could rezone it agricultural from one of these.
Well, later on.
right. Later on, it'd be tough luck, the fence isn't up.
Yeah, we crossed that bridge.
I don't think we want to be out counting cattle either.
Okay, and then Maura, how do you feel again now?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Do you think we need to define animals?
Well, I don't know, it sounds like they don't want to count cows. And that the incidental definition would capture if somebody seemed to be doing something unreasonable with their property.
Okay, well, good. I think we can move forward with this. In
Yeah,
that
if you're
case,
on 5 acres and you have 20 head of cattle,
Yeah.
that's clearly not incidental.
And that probably will fall under feedlot if you fed them.
Yeah, and then there's
And the
also
state
that.
will go after you big time for that, so.
in that case, may I have a motion to move forward with this?
What do you mean by move forward? Set it for public hearing?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do you guys feel like that's where you're like ready for? Or
I mean, we can do that, or we can make the changes and bring them back. This isn't something that's like has to be done. You know, but if you want to go forward and feel comfortable with it, we can.
And I'm asking you all, I feel comfortable with, if anyone here doesn't feel comfortable, with it, I'm perfectly happy waiting. We're not in a rush.
Right, I see nothing wrong. Let's see it again.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay, let's do that.
And so, just a question then for planning staff, if this went forward and got adopted, could one of these, like the industrial subdivision, that was the subdivision. It was not a zoning change, it was we're subdivided, so they can't come back at the point at which you would make this happen. They can't come back and ask for a variance down the road. It's like,
No, it wouldn't work for them anyways,
okay,
because of the exempt law.
okay, thanks.
Okay, so we're clear. You'll come back with us, to us next month with red line version of this, and we'll look at it again.
Sure, we can do
All
that.
right, that's what we're gonna do. All right, in that case, David, do you have any staff updates for us?
Joe's got some.
All right, Jeff, very good.
So I guess the projects that were here last month. The Aaron Holtz variance, you guys denied or recommended denial. The applicant pulled the application. And then the New Life subdivision, you guys recommended approval and the Board of County Commissioners approved it. And then I was talking to our enforcement officer today, asked her how many active she's working on, and she said around 100. So that's good.
She's working.
She is working.
She's doing awesome. She's doing a great job, so.
Well, very good then. Anything else?
Can I add to the Aaron Holtz? Remember one of the neighbors said to them, you didn't read the fine print if you subdivide the easement for the road that goes away. And the guy got a little upset with you guys with this, he came up with a map or something. Turns out the neighbor was right. And for that parcel, all the 5 parcels on that road going in, the easement was conditional on no more subdivisions. So that's why he pulled the application, because he didn't, when he bought the property, he didn't realize that, he didn't read the fine print. And then he sent an email to the road district, to our road district, apologizing for creating all that, upheaval in the neighborhood, so. That's what happened with that. Yeah.
Additional information. Okay, gentlemen, well,
We'll just add that. I saw that letter myself and I thought it was an endorsement of public participation. And this gentleman, once it was posted, we provided a forum for the neighbors. He was listening, we were listening. So no, I thought the whole thing was an endorsement of the process.
Yeah.
Give people a chance to speak.
Yeah, it was.
I agree.
And share information that some people don't read the fine print, so. Yeah.
Okay, commissioner comments, and I know Bern has something to say.
Okay, yeah, I was just, it come to my attention that we are hitting the ends of terms. I don't know how many applications I've put in, but 2 of our commissioners' current terms expired. I hope that the county commissioners have the good sense to reappoint both of them. But it's the possibility that we may not see you guys in January. I just want to extend my heartfelt, unabridged thanks to your contribution to our efforts over the period of your term where we've overlapped. I think even the discussion today is an endorsement of this commission. We find ourselves on different sides of different issues. There's no lockstep here. Some of us, our libertarian side comes to the fore, and then others, it's, well, we better regulate this. So no, I just have been very, very happy and honored to have you guys helping us out on the Planning and Zoning Commission. Hope we see you in January.
Oh, thank you. It's been an honor to be here. So I hope to be back also.
And I certainly agree with all that.
I wanted to comment too, that it's been a really, a great experience working with the planning department staff and our deputy county attorney. And it's been really wonderful working with my co-commissioners. We'll see what happens.
When is the consideration again?
This Tuesday, isn't it?
The 16th.
This Tuesday? Okay.
For Tuesday.
Keep our fingers crossed.
Have there been a lot of applications? Do we know?
3.
Oh, okay.
1,
2 are sitting right there.
2 of them are there. There's a third. No.
Oh, and the application deadline is now closed, right?
It was the 8th.
It's the 8th.
Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed.
Yeah, I wanna say that I've learned a lot from you. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's been a great time. I agree with Chair Platt that we've gotten a lot done.
We have.
And all because the planning department staff have really worked hard to make a lot of regulation changes and bring them forward. And they've all been really positive and fixing problems that have vexed you. And it's been productive.
Well, very good. Our next regular meeting will be January 14th,
Wait, what, 14th?
the 14th.
Really?
That's what it says here.
Okay.
5 p.m. this place.
Working the second Wednesday be on a 14th.
Yeah. it's
Because
surprising.
the 1st is on a Thursday.
Enough days in the
Oh.
month to do that. All right.
And with that, I declare this meeting adjourned. Thank you.